The throne room stretched 3 football fields long, its obsidian floors polished to mirror shine. 17 planetary governors knelt in synchronized rows, foreheads pressed to cold stone. At the far end, perched on a dais wreathed in violet light, sat Overlord Kael'thar, conqueror of 42 worlds, breaker of 3 civilizations, architect of the Scourge Wars. His voice boomed through the chamber, amplified by alien acoustics that made every syllable feel like a physical blow. "Let the new vassal approach." A girl in scuffed sneakers shuffled forward, hands shoved in her hoodie pockets. She stopped halfway down the aisle, yawned so wide her jaw cracked, and muttered, "This is taking forever." The invitation had arrived on a Tuesday. Reyes found it wedged in her locker between a chemistry quiz she'd forgotten about and a flyer for winter formal. Gold foil lettering on black cardstock, "Humanity's representative will present themselves at the Sovereign Summit. Noncompliance equals extinction." She'd shown it to her mom that night over microwaved lasagna. "Think it's real?" Her mom, a nurse working double shifts, barely glanced up. "Honey, if aliens wanted to kill us, they wouldn't send RSVPs." But the news confirmed it. Ships the size of cities hovered over every capital, silent and dark as ink blots against blue sky. World leaders scrambled. The UN debated. Then someone noticed Emma's name printed at the bottom of every copy of the invitation in 70 languages, always the same: Emma Reyes, age 17, Los Angeles, California, Earth. No one knew why. Emma didn't either. She'd spent junior year working at a coffee shop, barely passing AP history, and trying to ignore the fact that her best friend had moved to Portland without saying goodbye. Nothing about her screamed galactic diplomat. The ships gave humanity 48 hours. Emma packed a duffel bag with 3 changes of clothes, her phone charger, and a half-eaten bag of gummy bears. A shuttle arrived at lax, sleek, silent, piloted by something that looked like a praying mantis in chrome armor. It didn't speak, just gestured her aboard. The flight took 6 hours. Emma napped through most of it, woke to pee once, and stared out the viewport at Earth shrinking to a marble. The Manus pilot handed her a sealed pouch. Inside, a universal translator chip, instructions in pictographs, and a single piece of paper that read, "Kneel when addressed. Do not speak unless spoken to. Defiance is death." Emma pocketed the chip without installing it. The paper went in the trash. The Sovereign Summit station orbited a red dwarf star nobody had named yet. Docking Bay 12 smelled like ozone and something sweetly rotten. Emma followed a line of other representatives, scales, fur, carapace, things that defied easy description, through corridors lit by bioluminescent strips. Everyone walked in rigid silence, eyes forward. A reptilian delegate 2 rows ahead stumbled. Guards materialized, dragged him away. No one reacted. Emma yawned again. She'd been up late binge-watching a cooking competition. Sleep debt didn't care about apocalyptic stakes. The throne room doors opened with a hiss. The other delegates filed in, found their marks on the floor, and dropped to their knees in perfect unison. Emma wandered in last, scanning the space like she was deciding where to sit at a new cafeteria. The ceiling arched impossibly high, studded with something that might have been stars or surveillance drones. Statues lined the walls, figures caught mid-scream, encased in amber resin. Kael'thar sat at the far end, humanoid enough to be unsettling. 8 feet tall, skin like polished hematite, eyes that burned with slow blue fire. He wore robes that seemed woven from shadow, trimmed in gold that pulsed with each breath. His voice, when it came, didn't need a translator. It bypassed ears entirely, resonating in bone marrow. "I am Kael'thar, sovereign of the Obsidian Throne, commander of the Eternal Fleet. You stand," he paused, tilting his head, "or kneel as the newest subjects of my dominion. Your worlds are mine, your resources are mine. Your lives are mine to preserve or extinguish as I see fit." Emma scratched her neck. Someone in the 3rd row flinched. "Resistance has been attempted," Kael'thar continued, gesturing to the amber statues. "Admiral Vornith of the Hellion Concordat, Chancellor Myra of the Dust Reaches. Scholar Queen Alara, who thought philosophy could shield her people." His smile was all teeth. "They learned otherwise. You will not repeat their mistakes." Silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind where everyone's holding their breath, waiting for the axe to fall. Kael'thar stood, each footstep rang like a gong. He descended the dais, moving down the rows of kneeling delegates, pausing to study faces, to let dread marinate. He stopped in front of a spider-like creature whose carapace was already cracked with stress fractures. You understand your place? Kael'thar asked. Yes, sovereign, the delegate whispered, mandibles clicking. Good. He moved on. When he reached Emma, she was picking at a loose thread on her hoodie. She glanced up, met his gaze for a half-second, then went back to the thread. You, Kael'thar said, voice dropping to something almost conversational. Are you simple-minded, brain-damaged from the journey? Emma looked around, realized he was talking to her. Oh, no, just tired. Do you guys have coffee here? A ripple of shock ran through the other delegates. Someone made a choking sound. Kael'thar's eyes flared brighter. You dare? Look, Emma interrupted. I've been up since 4 a.m. 6-hour flight in a chair that doesn't recline. And you've been talking for like 20 minutes without a single PowerPoint slide. I'm doing my best, but my attention span's shot. She yawned again, covering her mouth this time. Sorry, what were you saying? Something about obedience. For 3 full seconds, no one moved, no one breathed. Then Kael'thar laughed. It wasn't cruel or mocking, it was surprised, almost delighted. Humanity, he said, straightening, sends me a child who cannot grasp the gravity of extinction. Tell me, Emma Reyes of Earth, do you think this is a game? Nope, Emma said, just boring. Are we almost done? The delegates stared, some in horror, some in desperate, unspoken hope. What would this strange human girl do next? Kael'thar dismissed the assembly with a wave. Guards herded the delegates into holding chambers, sterile cells with force field doors and nutrient dispensers. Emma's cell was identical to the others, 10 feet by 10, a sleeping platform, a waste disposal unit that hummed ominously. She dropped her duffel on the platform, pulled out her phone, and frowned at the no-signal icon. A viewport took up one wall, showing the red dwarf spinning lazily in the void. Emma pressed her forehead to the glass, watching solar flares ripple across the star's surface. Back home, her mom would be getting off shift. Her little brother would be wrecking the kitchen, making after-school snacks. The neighbor's dog would be barking at nothing. She wondered if they knew where she was, if they were scared. Probably. Footsteps echoed outside. Emma turned as a guard appeared, same chrome-armored mantis design, but this one had a cracked antenna and moved with a limp. It slid a tray through a slot in the force field, gray paste in a bowl, something that might have been bread, a cup of liquid that shimmered purple. Thanks, Emma said. The guard didn't respond. She tried the paste, tasted like cardboard and disappointment. The bread was worse. Hours passed. Maybe a whole day. Time felt slippery without her phone's clock. Emma did push-ups to stay awake, counted the rivets in the ceiling, 212, and sang pop songs off-key until the guard outside banged on the wall. Then the force field dropped. Kael'thar stood in the doorway, alone this time, no throne or theatrics. Up close, he looked older, fine cracks webbed across his hematite skin, and his eyes burned with something closer to exhaustion than rage. Walk with me, he said. Emma grabbed her hoodie. Where to? Does it matter? You seem indifferent to your fate. Not indifferent, Emma said, following him into the corridor. Just not scared. There's a difference. The station's interior was a maze, corridors branching into atriums, observation decks, laboratories where things in tanks watched them pass with too many eyes. Kael'thar walked with his hands behind his back, silent, until they reached a greenhouse. Humid air rushed out when the doors opened. Inside, alien flora grew in wild tangles, trees with silver bark, flowers that chimed like bells, vines that reached toward them, curious. This was the first world I conquered, Kael'thar said, stopping beside a tree whose leaves glowed faint green. The inhabitants worshipped these groves, believed they housed the souls of ancestors. They fought fiercely to protect them. Emma touched a leaf. It was warm, pulse-steady, almost alive beyond biology. Did you burn them? No, Kael'thar's voice softened. I transplanted samples here, preserved what I could. The people, however, he trailed off. You killed them anyway, Emma finished. I gave them a choice, submit or perish. They chose pride. His eyes flicked to her. You remind me of them, that same defiant stupidity. Stupidity, Emma echoed, letting the leaf go. Or maybe I just don't believe you. Believe what? That you're as all-powerful as you pretend. She turned, met his gaze head-on. If you were, you wouldn't need summits and speeches. You'd just do whatever you wanted. But you bring everyone here, make them kneel, give the whole villain monologue. That's not power, that's insecurity. Kael'thar's jaw tightened. For a moment, Emma thought she'd pushed too far. Then he smiled, thin, sharp, a blade's edge. You have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe, Emma admitted, but I've been around enough bullies to recognize the pattern. You want us scared because fear's easier than actual control. Fear is control, until it's not. Emma shrugged. Then it's just noise. They stood in silence, surrounded by living ghosts of a dead world. Somewhere in the greenhouse's depths, something whistled a three-note melody, mournful, ancient. Kael'thar closed his eyes, listening. When he opened them again, the exhaustion was more visible, settling into the lines of his face like sediment. "I was not always this," he said quietly. "Once I had a name that meant he who protects. I served my people, built cities, negotiated treaties, believed in peace." His hand brushed the tree trunk. Then the scourge came, a plague that consumed worlds, turned populations into mindless husks. My people begged the Galactic Council for aid. They debated, formed committees, drafted resolutions, and while they talked, my world died. Emma's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." "I don't want your pity." Kael'thar's voice hardened again. "I survived because I learned the only truth that matters. Power is the sole currency that holds value. Everything else, kindness, diplomacy, hope, is a fairy tale for children. I rebuilt myself, conquered those who failed me. And now I protect the galaxy by ruling it absolutely." "That's not protection," Emma said. "That's revenge. You're just hurting people because you got hurt. And you think you can stop me, a child with no army, no strategy, no leverage?" "No," Emma said honestly. "But I don't have to stop you, I just have to not kneel." Kael'thar stared at her, then he turned, walking toward the exit. "Your defiance will cost your world. I hope it was worth the pride." Emma watched him leave, heart pounding. The greenhouse hummed around her, a lullaby for extinct civilizations. She sat on a stone bench, pulled her knees to her chest, and let herself shake for the first time since leaving Earth. She'd called his bluff. Now she had to survive what came next. Word spread fast in a space station prison. By the next cycle, every delegate knew about the human who'd yawned at the Overlord. Some thought Emma was a fool. Others quietly called her a spark. The spider delegate from the throne room approached Emma in the communal yard, a zero-gravity sphere where inmates floated under guard supervision. Its name was Chitara, translated through Emma's newly installed chip. It drifted close, mandibles clicking in nervous patterns. "You spoke truth," Chitara whispered. "About fear. My people have considered rebellion, but he has starships, weapons that crack continents. What do we have? Each other," Emma said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. "And the fact that he's one guy, powerful, sure, but still one guy with legions." "Legions made of people, maybe scared people." Emma grabbed a handhold, steadying herself. "What if we found out how scared?" Over the following days, Emma built a network, quiet conversations in corners, notes passed during meal distribution. The delegates were terrified, yes, but also exhausted. Decades under Kael'thar's rule had bled their worlds dry. Quotas they couldn't meet. Children conscripted, resources stripped until planets became husks. A feline delegate named Syrah confided that her homeworld's youth had started a secret tradition, planting night-blooming flowers in bomb craters, tiny acts of beauty against the ash. "It gives us something to protect," she said, eyes distant. "Something he hasn't taken yet." An amphibious delegate called Corlith shared intelligence. Kael'thar's fleet was vast but aging. Maintenance costs crippled his economy. He'd been diverting resources from subjugated worlds to keep ships operational, which meant oversight on those worlds was weakening. "We're stretched thin," Corlith admitted, "but so is he." Emma listened, took mental notes, and tried to ignore the growing pit in her stomach. She was 17. Her biggest leadership experience was organizing a bake sale. Now she was accidentally coordinating a coalition of alien rebels. Kael'thar summoned her again on the 5th day, this time to a war room. Holographic displays filled the space, star charts, fleet positions, resource tallies. He stood at the center, hands moving through data streams, reshaping them like clay. "I've been considering your words," he said without preamble, "about insecurity, power, fear." Emma stayed near the door, and I've decided to show you what real power looks like. He gestured. The holograms shifted, zooming in on Earth. Major cities glowed like embers. "I could erase your world with a thought, reduce it to molten slag. Would that convince you to kneel?" Emma's breath caught. But she forced herself to step closer, to look at the images of LA, New York, Lagos, Tokyo. People moving through streets unaware, her mom maybe driving home, her brother probably gaming. "You could," she agreed, "but you won't. You sound confident. Because if you were going to destroy Earth, you'd have done it already. You don't waste time on threats you plan to follow through with." Emma met his gaze. You brought me here because something about humanity bothers you. We're new, unknown. And that scares you because you can't predict us. Kael'thar's hand dropped, the holograms flickered, destabilized. You know nothing of fear. I know you're terrified, Emma said quietly. Terrified that if you stop conquering, stop controlling, everything you've built collapses because it's not built on loyalty or trust. It's built on everyone being too scared to say no. And the second someone does, she didn't finish, didn't need to. The silence between them was answer enough. Kael'thar turned away, shoulders tight. Get out. Emma left. In the corridor, she found Chitara waiting, mandibles vibrating with urgency. The guards, it hissed. Some are asking questions about you, about why Kael'thar keeps summoning you instead of executing you. What kind of questions? The dangerous kind, the kind that spread. Emma's mind raced. If the guards were questioning, maybe the cracks ran deeper than she'd thought. Maybe Kael'thar's empire was held together with spit and willpower, one bad day from collapse. Or maybe she was delusional and they were all about to die. Only one way to find out. The rebellion started with calendars. Small handmade things, delegates marking cycles, counting down to anniversaries, remembering homeworld holidays Kael'thar had forbidden. Emma had suggested it during a whispered gathering in the greenhouse. If we remember what we're fighting for, it's harder to give up. Chitara sketched star charts on scrap metal. Sira wove grass into bracelets, one strand per day of captivity. Corlith sang old hymns in the shower stalls, voice echoing through vents until others joined in. The guards noticed. At first, they cracked down, confiscated calendars, punished singers, but some guards hesitated. A mantis guard returned Chitara's star chart with a whispered, "My clutchmates sang those hymns." Another left extra rations outside Sira's cell, small fractures, but fractures nonetheless. Kael'thar called a second assembly. This time, the throne room felt different, tighter, like a fist clenching. The delegates knelt again, but their formation was looser. A few, emboldened by Emma's defiance, kept their heads up. Kael'thar descended the dais, moving slower now, eyes scanning faces. "I have been lenient," he began, "patient. I tolerated disrespect from the human. Allowed whispers and small rebellions to fester, thinking they were harmless, but patience has limits." He stopped in front of Corlith. "You sang forbidden hymns. Why?" Corlith's gills flared. "Because my people deserve to be remembered, sovereign, even here. Your people are dead, memories change nothing." "They change me," Corlith said, voice shaking but steady, "and that's enough." Kael'thar raised a hand, energy crackled at his fingertips, violet lethal. The room held its breath. Emma stood. "Stop." Every head turned. Kael'thar's hand froze mid-strike. "You're proving my point," Emma said, stepping forward. "You say you're all-powerful, but you need to execute someone just for singing. That's not strength, that's desperation." "Sit down." "No." Emma's voice carried, amplified by acoustics designed for Kael'thar's grandeur. "I'm done kneeling. Done watching you pretend this is about order or protection. It's about control. And the second you lose it, you don't know who you are." Kael'thar's eyes blazed. "You think your defiance inspires them? They're insects. They'll scatter the moment I flex real power." "Then do it," Emma challenged. "Flex, show us this unstoppable force, crack a continent, kill me. Prove you're the monster you pretend to be." The silence stretched, knife-edge thin. Kael'thar's hand trembled, not with rage, Emma realized, but with indecision. He looked around the room, at the delegates watching, waiting, at the guards whose grips on their weapons had loosened. Then he lowered his hand. "Get out of my sight," he whispered. "All of you." The force fields dropped, delegates fled, stumbling over each other, too shocked to process what had happened. Emma stayed, rooted, staring at Kael'thar. He looked smaller, the blue fire in his eyes guttered like a dying star. "Why didn't you kill me?" Emma asked. "Because," Kael'thar said, voice raw, "I don't know if I still can." He turned, retreating to his throne, shoulders bowed under invisible weight. Emma watched him go, heart hammering, unsure if she'd won a victory or just delayed the inevitable. In the corridors, delegates gathered in hushed clusters. Chitara grabbed Emma's arm. "What happens now?" "I don't know," Emma admitted, "but we don't kneel anymore. That's a start." Over the next cycles, the station transformed. Delegates moved freely, guards didn't intervene. Kael'thar remained in his throne room, doors sealed, no summons issued. Rumors swirled. He was planning a massacre. He'd lost his mind. He'd already fled. Emma found him in the greenhouse. He sat beneath the silverbark tree, staring at nothing. She sat beside him, unsure what to say. "I built this empire to protect the galaxy," Kael'thar said eventually. to prevent another scourge, but somewhere I became what I swore to destroy, something that consumes and leaves nothing behind. You can stop, Emma said. Let people go, help rebuild instead of ruling, and if they refuse, if they seek revenge for what I've done, then you face it, accept consequences, but at least you'd be facing them as yourself, not as this. She gestured at his robes, his throne, costume. Kael'thar closed his eyes. A single tear, glowing faint blue, traced down his cheek and evaporated. It's too late. It's not, Emma insisted. You're still here, still breathing. That means it's not too late. What would his choice be? The announcement came 3 days later. Kael'thar's voice transmitted across every subjugated world, every ship in his fleet, every station under his control. I am dissolving the Obsidian Throne. Effective immediately, all worlds are released from vassalage. Resources will be returned. Fleets will be decommissioned. I will stand trial for my crimes before a council of those I have wronged. Silence, then chaos, disbelief, joy, fury, all tangled together. Some worlds celebrated, others demanded blood. A few former generals attempted coups, trying to seize control, but the momentum had shifted. Delegates like Chitara, Sira, and Corlith formed transitional councils, coordinating aid and rebuilding efforts. Emma watched from the observation deck as ships began to disperse, scattering like seeds. Earth's transport arrived within the week. She packed her duffel, said goodbyes that felt inadequate, and found Kael'thar one last time in the greenhouse. He looked different, robes discarded, wearing simple gray. The fire in his eyes was gone, replaced by something quieter, almost human. Will you testify? Emma asked. I will. It's the least I owe. You could run, disappear, no one would find you. I know, he touched the silverbark tree, but running would mean I learned nothing, and I think I'm tired of being a coward. Emma nodded. She wanted to say something profound, something that wrapped up the enormity of what had happened, but words felt slippery, insufficient, so she just held out her hand. Kael'thar stared at it, then slowly he shook. Thank you, he said, for yawning. Emma laughed, surprised, exhausted. Any time. The flight home took 6 hours. Emma slept through most of it, woke once to pee, and stared out at Earth growing larger. Lax looked exactly the same. Her mom picked her up in the same beat-up Camry, eyes red from crying, and didn't let go for a full 5 minutes. Her brother made pancakes for dinner, burnt edges, too much syrup, perfect. They ate in the kitchen, crowded around the table that wobbled, and Emma told them edited versions of what had happened. Space politics, diplomatic stuff. She left out the parts about near executions and empire toppling. Some stories needed time. That night, Emma lay in her own bed, ceiling familiar, neighbor's dog barking next door. Her phone buzzed, texts from friends, memes, invitations to winter formal. Normal, blessedly, impossibly normal. She thought about Kael'thar standing trial, about Chitara rebuilding, about Sira planting night-blooming flowers across scarred worlds, about Corlith teaching hymns to a new generation. The galaxy wasn't fixed. It was messy, complicated, full of people navigating trauma and hope in equal measure. But it was trying, and maybe that was enough. Emma yawned, wide and unguarded, and let sleep take her. Somewhere light years away, an empire yawned too, cracking open, letting air in, learning to breathe again. The community center smelled like fresh paint and coffee. Emma stood at the front of the room, hands shoved in her hoodie pockets, staring at 20 folding chairs and the people who filled them. Some were neighbors, some were strangers who'd seen her interview online. A few were skeptics, arms crossed, waiting to be convinced. So, Emma began, I'm not great at speeches, but I wanted to talk about second chances. About how easy it is to think people are irredeemable, that once someone's done bad things, that's all they'll ever be. She clicked to the next slide, a photo of the silverbark tree glowing in greenhouse light. This is from a world that got destroyed. The people are gone. But the tree survived because someone who did terrible things chose to save it. Not for glory, not for redemption, just because it mattered. A hand raised. Are you saying we should forgive war criminals? No, Emma said. I'm saying we should let them face consequences and change, both. Not one or the other. Another hand. What's this got to do with us? Everything, Emma said. Because if an alien warlord can yawn at his own empire and decide to tear it down, we can handle our smaller stuff, apologize to people we hurt, fix communities we broke, actually listen when someone's bored with our excuses. She clicked again. The screen showed Earth from orbit, fragile, blue, ridiculously hopeful. We're all still here, Emma said, so let's act like it. The talk ended, people filtered out, some nodding, some still skeptical. Emma's mom squeezed her shoulder. You did good, honey. Emma smiled, tired but steady. Outside, the sun set over LA, turning the sky shades of orange and gold. Somewhere above, in the vast dark, other worlds were rebuilding. Other people were planting flowers, singing hymns, remembering. And a girl who'd once yawned at an overlord picked up her backpack, headed home, and thought about what to make for dinner. The universe spun on, imperfect, exhausting, stubbornly alive, and that, Emma figured, was worth staying awake for.